Hi, welcome to Highland Cottage Books. I'm Martha, and this is Highland Cottage. And today we're going to talk about books with amazing plot twists. So the first book I want to talk about is The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This book, despite being a literary fiction book and very serious, it's not very long, so you can absolutely get through it. It had a plot twist that was so that I can tell you exactly where I was when I read it. I was right over there. I was sitting on my porch. This was probably about 12 years ago, going, Anyway, it is the story of a guy named Tony who's in his 60s, and he is looking back on his life. He When he was at university, he's British, so he doesn't go to college, he goes to university. When he was at university, he had a girlfriend and a really good friend named Adrian. And he broke up with his girlfriend, whose name is Veronica, I believe. He broke up with her, and a bit later, his friend Adrian started dating her. And he wrote a letter to Adrian, kind of not, it wasn't a very friendly letter, but then he moved on with his life. And before school ended, they went to different universities. Before school ended, his friend strung himself up. And he moved on, and his friend was very much a philosopher and kind of left this note that was saying it was his life, he could do with what he wanted, and he decided that he was going to renounce it. So our protagonist Tony thought, okay, well, that was a very philosophical way of dealing with whatever it is. I find your logic sound. And they were two people who were very kind of intellectual and very and loved being, arrogant in their pursuit of the intellectual life. So I imagine it did not make them a lot of fun at parties, I will tell you. But he's looking back on this suddenly, having not thought about it in years, because he receives a will, or he receives a like 500 pounds, I think, from his college girlfriend's, his university girlfriend's mother gives him this money. And it makes him go, wait, why would she do that? So he starts looking back on his time in school and his relationship with the girlfriend and his relationship with his friend. And discovers that he really had no clue what was going on, and that in a lot of ways, well, actually, I'm going to leave it there. He just didn't really know what was going on and was not the best observer of his own life. I'll put it that way. The next book I want to talk about is The Wych Elm by Tana French. This book is one of my favorite books of all time. It is so smart, and it is a traditional thriller, but French puts in a lot of commentary about how the world works, I'll say that, in this particular book. So we are in Ireland. I believe we're kind of right outside. We're in a suburb of Dublin. And we're following a guy named Toby he's handsome, he's white, he's fairly wealthy, he has had good schooling, he's lived a pretty charmed life. And one day, he comes home from work, he comes home from hanging out with his friends at a pub, and he gets the ever-loving crap beaten out of him in his apartment and is left there. And what happens is his life completely changes. He has some injuries, he has some cognitive issues, he has some language issues, and he can't function in the same way that he used to. He also may be having some memory issues as well. So what he decides to do is go home to kind of the ancestral family home, which is the home that, everybody goes to. When he was young, everybody would summer there or, have their Sunday dinner there. I believe it was the grandparents' house. So they go there. He goes there to live with an uncle who is not doing well. He has terminal cancer. And the two of them kind of, with their lives changing so much, kind of take care of each other for a while. So his cousins come over because that's what they do. And they bring, his female cousin brings her kids, and they're playing in the garden, which is Irish for backyard. And they are playing there, and the kid goes over to a tree and is digging around there, because he's a kid, and discovers a skull in the tree, a human skull. So the police come, obviously they call the police, they have to do that. And it is what the way that skull got there, who that skull is, it is quite a story. And I highly recommend you pick this book up on several levels. It's an incredibly well-written story. It's very, very smart. And it will make you want to read it again, knowing all the information at the beginning, or at the end rather. You'll want to go back and read it all again. And did I mention it's one of my favorite books? It's so good. So good. So the next book I want to talk about is a bit of a plot twist in itself, in that it's a memoir. Normally you don't associate memoirs with plot twists, but this one is a doozy. This is Not My Father's Son by Alan Cumming. If you don't know who Alan Cumming is, you are in for a treat. He's a Broadway star, he's an actor, singer, and a very accomplished writer of both fiction and nonfiction. He also writes one-man shows, which are very impressive, and he tells a good story. So this is Alan Cumming. He won, a Tony, I believe, for Cabaret. He was in Burlesque. He is in the X-Men. He is in The Good Wife. He is also currently the host of The Traitors, which is one of my favorite shows. It is an extreme guilty pleasure for me. But the story is, and I'm specifically telling you all these things because it's really important that you don't go over to his Wikipedia page until you've read this book, if you plan to read this book, because in doing so, you might see the plot twist. So, he was tasked a few years ago, or rather was chosen a few years ago, to be on the show So Who Do You Think You Are?, which is a show in Britain where they go and they do some genealogy research on you. Maybe they test your DNA, and they look into your family history to tell you, about your ancestors. And it's very interesting. And, they share a little bit about British and world history through the show. And also, they get to talk to celebrities. So it's a win-win all around. So his father, with whom he does not have a good relationship, hears that he's going to be on the show and reaches out to him and says, okay, you should know before you go on the show that I am not your biological father. And the thing is, that is not the plot twist. And nor do I feel like I'm spoiling it, because it is literally the cover of the book. It is literally the title. So what happens is, of course, that Alan, or Cumming rather, goes into a little bit of a tailspin trying to figure out what he's talking about. And he goes into his own family. He talks to his brother. He talks to his mother, trying to figure out, you know, who he is and what has happened, and who his father is. And it is a heartbreaking story, but it is a very compelling story, and I highly recommend it. I also recommend that if you are an audiobook listener, you listen to this on audio, because he is a great storyteller and he has a lovely Scottish accent. And it's just really interesting to hear this amazing story and what it was like growing up in his family directly from his own mouth. So I recommend this book a lot. The next book is Confessions by Kanae Minato. So this book is just a series of plot twists. It is not hard to follow, but it is just peeling an onion of horrific events, basically. But it is very compelling, and once you start it, you will not be able to put this one down. The story takes place in Japan, and it focuses on a teacher who gathers her students around on the last day of term and says, "It's been great teaching you all, but I'm retiring after today." And the kids are like, "Wait, no, why? We love you." And she explains it's because she knows that two of the students that are sitting in front of her right at this minute are responsible for the death of her 4-year-old child. And she knows what they did, and she's poisoned them. She gave them a snack earlier in the day, and these two students that she does not name directly, they've been poisoned, and they won't die immediately, but they will die later. And she's going to ruin their lives. So it is about what happens to the teacher. It's about what happens to the students. It's about what happened to her child and the child's father. It's about all of these things, and it is an incredibly compelling book. I would recommend that if you start this book, you start it early in the day, because you are not going to put it down. The next book is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This book is incredible, and it will stick with you well after you put it down. It also has several plot twists that will make you go. So it is the story of a family that is going through an exceptionally hard time. Their teenage daughter is displaying some really frightening symptoms and behaviors, and is clearly having some sort of mental health crisis. And the medical bills are piling up, and they're having a financially difficult year anyway, and they don't know what to do. And a Catholic priest ingratiates himself with the father and says, maybe you need an exorcism. And he also points out that maybe one way to pay for all the medical bills is if you sell your story to a production company of a reality TV show. So the book takes place several years after the show was filmed, and travels along with one of the members of the family who details what the aftermath of the show was and how it affected everyone in their lives. And it is, I can tell you there were several plot twists in this one. And what I really love when a writer sort of dangles one plot twist in front of you and makes you feel clever for guessing it. And then, you know, all of a sudden, JK, that wasn't really the plot twist. This is the plot twist. So that happens in this book a few times. So there it is. Those are 5 books with jaw-dropping plot twists. Thank you for joining me today. And if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, leave a comment or tell me what your favorite book with a plot twist is. But no spoilers, no spoilers. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you next week.